Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. Oh my gosh, we're starting technically season 2 of Moriarty the Patriot, but I'm going to keep it all Moriarty the Patriot because Funimation lists it as episode 12, so it's technically the second cour, but I know a lot of people say it's season 2, but I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And they've just announced on Twitter, I saw a couple days ago, they announced on Twitter that there's going to be an OVA. There's going to be 2 OVAs maybe coming out in April of next year for Moriarty the Patriot. So that's exciting. That means there's going to be more even after we're done. Even after we're done with Moriarty, because we'll be done with Moriarty by April, way before April. But that'll be something really cool to look forward to when we get the English subs for it and everything. That will be really awesome. So I'm really excited about that. We get to extend beyond just this one season. And of course, I'll be reading the manga. I won't be reacting to it, but I'll be reading it and doing a big soapbox about it too. So good times. But yeah, so A Scandal in the British Empire Act 1. Obviously, at least a 2-parter. But I know A Scandal in Bulgaria. I'm really curious because I was thinking about this the other day. There are 2 characters we've not seen in this series yet that are pretty essential to Sherlock. I was actually watching BBC Sherlock a little while ago because this series made me want to go back and watch the BBC version. And I was like, we've not seen Mary. Mary is the wife of Watson. And in the BBC version, she has a very distinct role, but I don't think in the original novels it's like that at all. We haven't seen her. And we also haven't seen Irene Adler. We haven't seen Adler at all yet, which is curious to me because Adler, a lot of people kind of make Adler out to be like a possible ship with Sherlock, and that would kind of fly in the face of our Sherlium ship here. So I'm curious to know if they'll touch on Irene Adler, if she'll make an appearance in all this. When I saw A Scandal, the title of this episode, I instantly thought of the episode that Irene Adler appears in. So I'm like, curious that. So I'm very interested to see if we get a version of Irene Adler in all this, or if we don't, or if maybe they left it to the manga, who knows, and if we get to see Mary or not. So those are the only 2 characters of Sherlock that I know distinctly that we haven't seen yet. So I'll be very curious. But we got introduced to Mycroft in the last episode. That was like the teaser at the end. Old Mycroft, him and Sherlock don't see eye to eye, and I doubt they'll see eye to eye in this because Mycroft looks like all business, and Sherlock is anything but. So I'm really excited. We have a new OP, we have a new Edie. It's all brand new stuff coming out in the wash here in episode 12. So I'm super excited. But y'all, we need to just start this episode, right? And so let's do this. We're going to do Moriarty the Patriot, Act 1 of A Scandal in the British Empire, episode 12, technically the first episode of season 2. We're going to start that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Oh my gosh. I can't believe that we have Adler. I was just talking about that. I was like, oh yeah, we'll get Irene Adler maybe. No, it's her. It's her. Okay. All right. So no Mary yet, but we do have Irene. I, for the record, am not going to complain about Sherlock, just getting down to his skivvies so he can help her. Not going to complain at all. Being a true gentleman. I'm all for it. He has a striking silhouette. So this episode, this is great. It's gonna be hard not to binge. It's gonna be hard not to binge the next part of this because it's at least a 2-parter, if not a 3-parter. It could be a 3-parter. Maybe it's just a 2. I don't know. I feel like this was just the initial setup. I don't know if they'll get it all. Because if it's Adler involved, she's a major player in this entire series, right? So I could see this being a 3-parter, absolutely, because we really didn't get much in terms of this is all just setup of the relationship between Sherlock and Irene, and man, setting lots of things up. Who knew? The OP setting up this interesting dynamic between Albert and Mycroft, which is very interesting because it's kind of, if you think about it, you have Sherlock and Moriarty, you have Lewis and Watson, so then you'd have Albert and Mycroft. So it makes sense you have those 3, and then you have Mrs. Hudson, and I could see if Irene ends up going over to their side, because she is kind of an antagonist. She is an antagonist in the typical Sherlock story. She's kind of an antagonist. She's not she's kind of like Catwoman from Batman. She's not really a villain per se, but she's not a hero. She's not one of the good guys, but she's not a villain outright. She's just kind of like an anti-hero that is sort of like skirting the line. Yeah. Is Sherlock our bisexual king? Probably. Because I think there's a part of him that likes Irene, obviously, and then there's still a part of him that really likes Moriarty. So it's like Sherlock is riding our bisexual line. If he could get with Irene, but he could also get with Moriarty. It's totally fine. He's pansexual. Sherlock is our pansexual king. Genders mean nothing to him. I like that better. Sherlock is our pansexual king. Genders mean nothing. Men, women, don't matter. As long as they give him a good mystery, he's fine with it. I can get on board with that. But yeah, I like Irene's character. I was a little bit afraid when they showed her like in the bathtub at the beginning that she was going to be just like a blonde bimbo. And I was like, are they going to make her that character? Like, because obviously she's got the big boobs and everything. I'm like, are they going to make her that character that's just really pretty and supposed to be like a sex symbol? But no, she actually does have, she shows with Kate, the little girl, that she kind of has like a flair like Sherlock. Like if you have your talent and you put it out there as strong as you can, then status and name won't matter. You'll make a name for yourself and status for yourself. So it kind of, the sunlight shining on her and Sherlock kind of looking at her in that moment, like he realizes she kind of has the same energy he does. Like she has the same energy he does in the moment when he was telling Moriarty about once you eliminate all other opinions, whatever is left, as improbable as it is, must be the truth. So it all tied back to that moment. That was a really good moment. I like the lighting of that. Really nice. So, Mycroft. Hal Watson, he's trying to be a little detective himself. Hal Watson did not see the resemblance between Mycroft and Sherlock is beyond me, because their eyes look exactly the same. They're the same eyebrows, same eyes. Their face shape and hair is different. And obviously, the voice actor for Kageyama from Twittering Birds, he voices Mycroft here. And so he has that deep bass voice. It's like, so good. Yeah, but I like that 673 times, huh? Him and Sherlock have battled it out, and he's never lost to Sherlock. And he has the paintball gun. That's interesting, right? The paintball gun, and he's testing it out. But yeah, and Sherlock loves doing that little Brazilian martial arts move where he gets on his hands and like kicks his feet up. He loves doing that move. So I like the new OP. I still like the old ED better. The first ED I liked better, but I like this new OP. It's pretty good. Same singer and everything. I was trying to say in the end credits that at the end of the first OP, Moriarty points the gun at himself, but in this, Sherlock points the gun and fires it at Moriarty. So is he firing it at Moriarty, or is he saving Moriarty by firing it at somebody else in the frame with him? That we don't know, right? But I like that we're setting up this weird dynamic between Albert and Mycroft. Very weird dynamic. I'm like, are we supposed to ship them? I don't know. But yeah, Sherlock really loves his blondes. I'm just saying, he's got a type. He's got a type, just to say. But yeah, Sherlock is clearly not happy to see Mycroft, as per usual. In the series, they really don't like each other. They're like, siblings. They fight like siblings. And Mycroft is literally one of the only ones that can outsmart Sherlock and outmatch him. And he is the government, as Sherlock says. He is the government. He's not just a detective. He's basically the Queen's right-hand man. I like that he calls him Sherly. Just having him the nickname Sherly. And Irene calls him Sherly, I think, too, in this, which is very interesting. Mrs. Hudson not liking Irene Adler. I love it. I love the dynamic of Mrs. Hudson and her just being like, nope, not having it. And just the lightning bolts between them. And when they made the comment about Sherlock asking Mrs. Hudson for extra clothes, I kept thinking Irene was going to make like a measurement joke, like that Mrs. Hudson's clothes wouldn't fit her. And she kind of does with the ugly stepsister, but otherwise I was like, oh my gosh. So Mycroft we've got this interesting dynamic started, right? We have Mycroft coming to warn Sherlock, presumably about Irene Adler. And he taps him on the forehead and he says, beware of women. And yeah, they have the exact same eyes, the same face, literally. He says, beware women. Seeing through the lies of a woman is even harder than tracing the threads of a crime. Okay. Yeah. So he's basically being like, this woman's going to try to trick you. Be careful. Be mindful. Don't let yourself get hurt because again, And he doesn't, what's so frustrating about all of this is that he's warning Sherlock against Irene Adler, essentially. But because he's Mycroft and because they're brothers and because that's how they work, he doesn't just come out right and say it to Sherlock. And of course, Sherlock wants the mystery. And Miss Hudson's like, look at this handsome man, Mycroft, this strong, sensible, responsible version of Sherlock. I'm like, Miss Hudson, do you have a thing for Mycroft? But yeah, Sherlock, I can't deal with him. And so it's interesting that he comes to warn Sherlock about this. I feel like he's trying to warn Sherlock that he's going to get involved in all this. And I like that Watson's like, is he some government official? And Sherlock's like, some office. He is the government. I like that concerned look on Sherlock's face. Sherlock clearly doesn't like how much power his brother has. Or he doesn't agree with it or doesn't see it the same way. So what's curious is Mycroft has warned Sherlock about Irene and about her playing a part in all this. And then at the same time, he pulls in Moriarty, which I wondered in the last episode if he was going to try to get, when the Queen's like, through any means necessary, I wondered if Mycroft was going to try to enlist Moriarty. And he gets Albert, who's in the Indian Army right now, because this is taking place in the late 1800s. He has like the full regalia and everything, and gets him involved and says they're going to seek her out and liquidate her, meaning they're going to take her out. They're like, we need to get rid of her. She's stolen an important document. This is going to affect things. And I'm assuming, see, she plays the king. What's interesting in this is that she pretends to be the king of Bohemia with the photo and everything. And she almost sets up the crime herself. But she just wanted to get Sherlock involved in it, right? She wanted to play the detective and make it a big scene, right? And try to get to where the government, if Sherlock's involved, the government's not going to just like snipe her out of a thing, right? So, what's interesting in this is that Moriarty knows exactly where Sherlock lives. They're staring through his bedroom window, not creepily at all. And Moriarty's like, oh, you can tell Moriarty, William is excited just to get involved because he knows Sherlock's involved. William is all excited because Sherlock's involved. He's like, oh, I get to see my boyfriend solve a crime. It'll be great. And Lewis and Albert are like, But what's curious in all this is, one, I don't know if Mycroft is playing Albert in them, if Mycroft is on to Moriarty's existence, to the consulting criminal. I don't know if he is onto them, and that's why he's enlisting the help of Albert. Yeah, I mean, he talks about Albert and how he's heard about his, solving investigations and things, but how much does Mycroft know? And Mycroft is kind of, in the rest of the series, one of those like neutral characters that he's not really with Sherlock, and he's very lawful neutral. Mycroft has always been. So he does things that benefit the crown because that's who he works for. But he doesn't really do things that are necessarily just, perhaps. They're kind of like a little sketchy, and he's okay with that. So, yeah. I'm curious to know what all Mycroft knows about the Moriartys and because he's gotten Sherlock involved somehow. But the question is to what extent and how is this all going to tie up together? I have a feeling by the end of this that Mycroft's going to come out the victor one way or another. That Moriarty's side and Sherlock's side may not be the victors in all of this, but Mycroft is going to be. Because he's always set up to be like, he's a step ahead of Sherlock even, right? But yeah, so Moriarty, I'm so curious how this is going to go down. I'm so curious because there's like three parties. It's like Mycroft's side, Moriarty's side, Sherlock's side, Irene's side. It's all going together. So obviously in Albert's case, he's saying that whatever is in these papers and whatnot is enough to like rock the British Empire. So it's important enough. It's not just a photograph. We're talking like some serious stuff. Irene just used the photograph and the example to get Sherlock involved, right? That seems to be the case. She stole something, but she's made no demands. Moriarty notes that it's interesting. She's not demanded anything from anyone, but she has clearly stolen something important. So she wouldn't make demands because she'd out herself and then she'd be an easy target, right? So she's kind of in hiding, and she's hiding in plain sight. She's chosen the most obvious place to hide, and that's with Sherlock. I also, good disguise powers, because did not guess her being this king or whatever. Like, did a good job patting down that bosom to fit in that giant coat. And with that wig, she has the best wig skills, because I don't know how she made it look so good, right? But yeah, and the voice and everything. I mean, she's an actress, so sure. And Sherlock instantly gets excited about the case. He's like, oh, this woman seems cheeky. I'm in. And £3,000. Yeah. Enough to pay rent for over 10 years. Like, Watson and Sherlock are like, oh, this is serious. This is some serious stuff. Okay. Interesting. She's got the money to back it up, clearly. Not just an actress, but a courtesan. The woman that's played the entire British Empire, right? So, yeah. Very, very interesting. So, yeah, the smoke bomb plan, that doesn't work out. I like Sherlock being excited. She's super clingy around Sherlock, too. And Sherlock is not a clingy person. Sherlock does not like people that are clingy, clearly, because he's always like, get off of me. And she makes him go shopping with her, does all of that, you know, all that fun stuff. But yeah, the smoke bomb, that whole plan goes down the drain. I love the expression of Sherlock 1 when he gets that like feral gremlin look on his face. Whenever he's challenged, he gets that feral gremlin look like, yeah, let's do this. But then when the actual building is on fire, him and Watson's expressions being like, the plane bombed. Literally. It's great. But yeah, Irene. So she clearly has a photograph, but there's obviously other documentation that the Queen thinks is going to be more dangerous if it leaks out to the public. So, interesting. And then, yeah, there's Moriarty just staring out at his BF's window. Not creepy at all with his glowing red eyes. So I'm assuming the letter that Albert gave her at the end of the episode when he runs into her, I'm assuming, because Moriarty's talking about negotiating with her. So I'm assuming that that's like an invitation. They're inviting her to come talk with them to try to get the photo and get the documents. It's obviously a trap, but I'm curious if she's going to like try to leave Sherlock to go talk to them, or if she's going to bring Sherlock along, or how this is going to work. I'm very curious to see what she ends up doing, because yeah, how is that going to be handled? And they've been told to liquidate her, so if she gives over the documents, and they've been told to get rid of her, so interesting. How safely can she reach the negotiation table? Curiouser and curiouser. But yeah, her making Sherlock just go on this trip with her, and him being like, ugh. like not a shopper, not wanting to do any of that. I think it's very symbolic too that it's in the sewage canals, and when they shove the girl into the sewage canals and she can't swim, Irene, despite wearing these beautiful clothes and having all this regalia, she just jumps into the shit without question, right? And saves that girl. And when the girl's like, oh, your dress, she's like, it means nothing. My stuff means nothing more than a human life. And I think that's so telling of her. And there's a part of me that's like, I don't think that's an act. I think that's her being genuine, because she saw that little girl talking about acting and saw some of herself in it. And Sherlock, of course, goes gets a life preserver. But girl's hair also, whatever bobby pins she is using some straight up bobby pins, because that stuff stays up. Like, honey, that's great. But yeah, I think it's very telling of her character in that moment that she saved the girl without question. And she relates to the girl talking about acting. And so Irene's setting herself up in Sherlock's eyes to not be a terrible person and have redeeming qualities. And I'm like, oh, when they try to kill her later, Sherlock's not going to like that, because he's seen that she's a good person, right? And then, yeah, of course, Sherlock and then in that moment, she's like, if your abilities are powerful enough, then connections and family standing won't matter. You'll win them over. And that's kind of, if you think about it, it's kind of Sherlock's philosophy too, because he has his brother Mycroft, who has won over the British military and has used his powers to finesse them. But as Moriarty noted, he comes from a blue-collar family, but he's proud of his heritage. So William kind of noted that he kind of talks up his accent, even though he's clearly from a working-class family. So Sherlock kind of in this moment seems like Kate and Adler, where it's like, no matter what your family standing is, if your talents shine through, you'll win them over. And that's kind of been Sherlock's deal. So yeah, you can definitely see why Sherlock would be like wooed by Irene's words in that moment. I love it. And the sunlight shining and everything. It's so good. And then the girl goes, and then Sherlock's so moved by her words, he's like, here, take my clothes. And she's like, you're all but naked, aren't you? And he's like, I don't mind about me. It's about you. And it's like, what a gentleman. Mm-hmm. What a gentleman indeed. So yeah, this episode, it was so good. I absolutely love it. I love that profile shot of him like looking at her through the window. It's so good. Yeah, she's not the sort of person who would blackmail the King of Bohemia. And so he's trying to figure her out too. It's like, oh, Sherlock, honey, she's an actress. Your brothers warned you, but your heart. Sherlock in this adaptation, Sherlock is, in the BBC version, Sherlock doesn't really, he's very, very anti-emotional. But in this version, it's like an interesting combo where Sherlock is kind of emotional. He just doesn't want to admit it. So it's like, okay, all right. But then, yeah, running into Albert. And then everything starts to turn green when she sees the leather that's been put into her jacket there. Everything starts to turn green, and it's like, oh, that's a sign, Moriarty. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this was a great episode. This was a fantastic start to the second cour. I'm really excited. I'm super hyped about it now. So there's that. But yeah, that was awesome. So I'm really excited to get into part 2. I think there's going to be a part 3. I can't see them. This seems big enough where I can't see us rounding it out and just, I feel like we're setting a 3-act up. Like we've introduced Irene, we've introduced that there's a conflict, we've got Mycroft's side, Sherlock's side, and Moriarty's side, and Irene's side, and now next episode things are going to get put into motion, and I just don't see it ending next episode, so we'll see though, right? So I'm curious to know your thoughts about this episode. If you have spoilers, please don't spoil me. I want to find out. But if you have spoilers, make sure to tag them. But otherwise, I'm excited to see your thoughts down below. I hope you all enjoyed this reaction. This was wonderful. But yeah, so next week we'll get in Act 2 of A Scandal in the British Empire. In the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with episode 13 of Moriarty the Patriot.